Добрый день, дорогие друзья! Вот уже 12 по Москве, значит, мы готовы начать нашу сессию с вами. Давайте, прежде чем мы перейдем уже к нашему семинару, ради которого все сегодня собрались, давайте проверим, что нас видно, слышно, презентацию видно и все хорошо работает. А заодно, что вы можете найти кнопку чат-бокс. Если вам не сложно, пожалуйста, напишите нам хотя бы плюсики, что все хорошо. Так, пока все явно стесняются использовать чат. Означает ли это, что меня не слышно? Отлично, спасибо большое от нашего анонимного слушателя. Спасибо за подтверждение. Итак, я вижу, у нас уже в соцсетях пошли комментарии. Да, спасибо большое, друзья, что слушаете. Нам очень приятно. Итак, давайте же начинать. Сегодня у нас очень интересный формат мероприятия. Не только тема у нас потрясающая, а именно образование в Северной Ирландии с нашим прекрасным университетом Queen's University Belfast, но и формат. У нас сегодня будет дискуссия с прямым включением из Белфаста, поэтому, друзья, я очень рада, что вот все наши гости подключились. Отлично, можем теперь полноправно начинать. Я сейчас пошерю свою презентацию, и мы будем готовы. Так, отлично. Я надеюсь, что все еще видно. И мы можем продолжать. Итак, друзья, добрый день еще раз. Спасибо всем регионам, которые нас сейчас слушают. Спасибо тем, кто подключились к нам в Zoom и в социальных сетях. Мы рады начать сегодняшний семинар. Если мы еще с вами не знакомы, такое тоже может быть, то я рада представиться. Меня зовут Мария Швыркова. Я являюсь руководителем английского направления, в принципе, европейского в компании Students International, энтузиаст всего, что касается Великобритании, и всегда очень рада вам помогать с зачислением. Кто же такие Students International? Спросите вы. Мы компания, самая крупная компания на образовательном рынке. Мы были основаны аж в 1992 году, и с вами уже достаточно долго, скоро нам будет 30 лет, и мы занимаемся не только образованием за рубежом, как вы можете видеть, но и у нас есть лицензированная школа подготовки к IELTS, это такой важный экзамен, который вам потребуется для поступления в Великобританию. Наши преподаватели сами сдают IELTS очень часто, постоянно повышают баллы, помогут повысить его и вам. И, конечно же, мы аккредитованный международный IELTS Test Center, где вы можете сдать абсолютно все виды экзамена, в том числе IELTS UKVI, который необходим на многие программы, в том числе в Queen's University Belfast, и мы сегодня об этом поговорим. И более того, у нас есть даже такой формат, как компьютерный вариант экзамена. Мы не только очень долго работаем с вами, друзья, но и мы представлены по всей территории России, Украины, Казахстана и даже во Вьетнаме мы представлены. Сейчас вы уже можете видеть мою прекрасную коллегу Ирину, которая подключается к нам из Киева. Ирина, добрый день.
Да, всем добрый день, коллеги, добрый день, уважаемые слушатели нашего вебинара. Вот, меня зовут Ирина, работаю в киевском офисе компании Students International, так же, как и Мария, занимаюсь европейским направлением. Помимо киевского офиса в Украине, у нас также есть офисы еще в нескольких городах.
Мы чуть-чуть попозже покажем, да, контакты, все явки, пароли раскроем.
Да, в нескольких городах, таких как Запорожье, Днепр, Одесса, то есть независимо от того, в каком городе Украины вы находитесь, мы с радостью поможем вам подобрать программу, подобрать учебное заведение. Вот, с нами вы тоже можете выучить язык, можете сдать IELTS, ну и, конечно же, получить высшее образование за рубежом.
Спасибо большое, Ирина. Через пару мгновений буквально покажу вам контакты наши, чтобы вы всегда знали, где нас найти. А давайте мы выясним, откуда к нам сегодня ребята подключаются. Прокомментируйте, пожалуйста, в чат-боксе или в комментариях, если вы слушаете нас из социальных сетей. Очень интересно, кто сегодня с нами на семинаре. А пока вы это делаете, да, чтобы не затягивать тот прекрасный момент, когда вы сможете наконец-то задать все ваши вопросы, я немножечко расскажу, что мы делаем, да, и почему стоит зачисляться, поступать именно со Students International. Казалось бы, очень легко выбрать программу обучения, если бы это было правдой. Да, мы всегда стараемся помочь вам, друзья, в этом нелегком деле, потому что университетов очень много. Сегодня у нас только один партнер, зато какой, конечно, представлен на семинаре, но ведь университетов очень-очень много. И как же действительно выбрать и выбрать программу, которая подходит именно вам? Со всеми этими вопросами мы помогаем, друзья, помогаем не только с зачислением в университет, но и в бординговые школы, мы помогаем вам выбрать языковой курс, конечно же, помогаем именно со всем процессом по вашей образовательной поездке в Великобританию. То есть здесь я подразумеваю визовое сопровождение. Мы, конечно же, будем помогать вам на первых порах особенно вашего обучения со всеми вопросами, как найти куратора, кому обратиться, где найти расписание и разные такие насущные, очень важные вопросы. И более того, мы помогаем вашим родителям вас таки навестить, потому что, конечно, мы понимаем, как это важно, как важно родителям видеть вас, преуспевающих в университете или в школе, и поддерживать. Так, а у нас тем временем пошли комментарии. Значит, кто у нас сегодня есть? Санкт-Петербург, Тернопольская область, Украина, Великобритания, там спасибо большое, Владивосток, из Индии у нас есть студенты, которые живут в Москве, Москва, в соцсетях у нас. Так, ребята из Ивано-Франковска, Великобритания. Так, отлично, да, спасибо большое за комментарий. Хабаровский край, спасибо, что слушаете. Чтобы уже больше не тянуть время и перейти к контактам, скажу одну такую вещь. Почему же все-таки стоит пользоваться услугами компании Students International? Мы были удостоены такого почетного звания образовательного Оскара в нашей индустрии. Мы были призваны лучшим образовательным агентством Восточной Европы по версии Study and Travel Magazine. Это самое важное издание для нас, людей, которые занимаются образованием. Это издание находится в Великобритании, поэтому мы очень почетно носим этот титул. 5 раз нас награждали, потом выгнали с соревнований, потому что мы мешали всем остальным. И теперь мы можем просто находиться в зале славы и помогать коллегам выбирать других достойных партнеров. Я надеюсь, что наш опыт поможет вам выбрать программу мечты и успешно до нее добраться. И также, на радостях перескочила. Где же нас искать? На данном слайде можете сделать принтскрин или сохранить контакты. В любом случае мы потом обязательно вам их направим после презентации. Где же нас искать? Все наши контакты вы видите на экране. Это образовательное агентство IELTS Center и наша школа подготовки к IELTS, конечно же. Итак, и это наши контакты украинских офисов, да, где искать коллег. Итак, мы это все, конечно же, вам направим после. И сейчас я бы хотела попросить моих коллег включить камеры, потому что мы скоро начнем нашу дискуссию. И про что же мы сегодня будем говорить? Да, я сначала сделаю небольшую подводку по-русски, и затем уже мы перейдем на английский, да, и будем обсуждать. Северная Ирландия как study destination незаслуженно недооценено, я бы сказала. Несмотря на наличие сильных академических вузов, да, о которых мы сегодня поговорим с вами, потрясающие возможности для выпускников, изумительную красоту вокруг в Белфасте и вообще в Северной Ирландии, как-то Северная Ирландия почему-то очень часто пропадает, скажем так, с радаров наших студентов потенциальных. Да? И сегодня мы, команда Students International и мои прекрасные коллеги из Queen's University Belfast, которых я представлю буквально через секунду, мы расскажем вам вместе сегодня, почему же стоит как минимум рассматривать Северную Ирландию как вашу потенциальную страну для обучения. И теперь мы переходим на английский, друзья. Напоминаю, что вопросы ваши вы можете писать как на русском, так и на английском. Мы будем их обсуждать. So finally, I'm switching to English so that everyone could understand me and participate in the discussion. Northern Ireland that we're going to discuss today, and education in Northern Ireland as a study destination has always been catastrophically, I think, underestimated. Even though there are marvelous, highly ranked, academically strong universities, one of which we're going to discuss today in greater details, and overwhelmingly grand opportunities for employment for the postgraduates of this university, and surely as well as striking beauty wherever you look in Northern Ireland. These wonderful components somehow didn't help Belfast to become super popular within our potential students, and hopefully we're going to fix it today. Belfast somehow goes off the radar for our potential students. So today, we're Students International, as well as our team from Queen's University Belfast, are going to tell you all the secrets, why you should at least consider studying in Northern Ireland at Queen's University Belfast. And finally, I'm happy to introduce you to my colleagues, Nuala Kaur and Tom Gamester from the Queen's University Belfast. So thank you very much. We do appreciate that you're joining us today at weekend to talk to our potential students. So thank you very much indeed. So we've gathered a lot of questions from our students, and the first question that I usually get whenever I try to consult some students who are interested in studying in Ireland, they ask me, like, where is Belfast? Like, what are you talking about? Like, where is Northern Ireland? Please do expand on the subject. Please do show me where it's on the map. Is it in the United Kingdom or not? So people sometimes do get confused, even though, like, obviously everyone knows that UK consists of several parts. Nevertheless, those who haven't been considering studying in Ireland and Northern Ireland, they sometimes get this question, and they want to they want to know about the location some more. So could you please expand a little bit and tell us what the location is, like this wonderful location?
Well, first of all, Maria and everybody at Students International, thanks very much for having us today. I think we all know already that it's a Saturday, but that's not an issue for us, and it's definitely not an issue for you. So thank you to everybody for joining us. We're really happy to be able to speak to you, and hopefully we can answer your questions. I guess as by way of introduction, my name is Tom Gamester, and I work at the International Office at Queen's University Belfast, and also joined today by my colleague Nuala Kaur, who is the Centre Director at Into Queen's University Belfast. So I've shared a map there, and I think, I guess Nuala, you might agree with me, but I think you kind of hit it on the head there, Maria, that somehow, perhaps because we don't have a Premiership football team or something like that, Belfast may not be everyone's number one choice when they immediately think about the UK. Of course, people think about London, but I think we're here today to say, forget London. You can visit London for a day or a weekend if you want, but there are plenty of other better places to be based. The best of them, of course, being Belfast. I've shared a map to show just from a location point of view how well situated we are. And also people should not be put off by the tiny amount of water between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK. In fact, Belfast and Northern Ireland is very uniquely located, that we are part of the UK, but also connected by land to the rest of the EU, to Europe. And in terms of getting around the rest of the UK, of course, you can do it from anywhere in the UK, but if you're in Belfast, you can very easily fly to pretty much any part of the UK if you want to travel in your free time or holidays, and always come back to, a really nice, homely, welcoming hub that you can set up for your 1, 3, 5 years of study with us.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you. And I can back you up on that. So I've obviously visited Belfast already, and I've been marveling ever since in Belfast. And please, I completely agree that London obviously is a marvelous choice as well, but London is not suitable.
Forget London. You don't want to go to London, honestly. Visit it for a weekend. You don't want to go there
yes,
for 4 years.
That's exactly what I was going to mention, because everyone starts their thinking from London because, well, it's famous and it's the capital, but you're going to spend at least 1 year studying there. So I mean, at the university. So you should think wisely, and you should consider a lot of factors, which we're going to discuss a little bit later during the discussion as well. So don't narrow your choices. This is all I'm going to say. So. Yes, do consider Belfast at least. And because already touched this topic, Belfast at least is worth considering because of the cost and the rent and the cost of living in general. So could you please, Tom, or Nuala maybe, could you please comment on how much a typical student in Belfast spends per year? Because we usually get asked about that as well a lot, because, well, people, they do need to plan to plan the educational trip and educational year, so they need to consider a lot of factors, especially living costs.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to start with that. I think when you look at your living costs, if we don't include the cost of your program, that's probably the best place to start. So let's look at all your other costs, excluding the tuition fee. You have to include your probably the biggest single cost would be the cost of your accommodation. And there are, of course, a wide range of different types of accommodation and, of course, a wide range of prices, but that's the biggest single cost. But then you do have your everyday living costs as well. So that would be your food, maybe clothes, socializing, travel, that kind of thing. And I think that the best way to think about it is if you can get that very high level of accommodation and living costs, but at a bit less than you'd spend elsewhere, then of course it gives you more free money to explore and social spend on other parts of of your experience. So all in all, you're probably looking at a maximum price for our accommodation of about £125 a week. And to just talk about our accommodation, I'm just going to go through very quickly. Apologies to everybody. We'll come back to some of these. This is really giving you just a very quick glimpse. But if you can see, there are some slides here about our accommodation. We will probably be chopping and changing and going through different parts of the presentation. But £125 a week would come out at just under £5,000 a year for your accommodation. To compare the same quality, same newness of accommodation and the same central location in somewhere like London, you'd easily be looking at double that, probably a bit more. So across the year, you're already saving maybe £6,000, £7,000 in just accommodation costs. The other costs you've got in terms of living and food and things like that, it very much depends on each person. But I think it depends if you can cook, if you have to go out to restaurants all the time, whatever your social habits are, how much you like shopping, how much you like traveling, etc. But I think that it's fair to say that you could easily spend an entire year, including your accommodation and food, for somewhere between £8,000 to £10,000 for the whole year, which is incredibly reasonable if you start researching and seeing what other parts of the UK would charge. You can also consider lower cost options of accommodation. So the price that I quoted was the highest, top of the range, brand new, premium ensuite accommodation with a private bathroom, etc. And that is really the best of the best. There's only one other type of accommodation, which is the studios. But most students probably wouldn't want a studio because it also in some way takes away a little bit from the experience of interacting with other students. So if you went down to a private accommodation or a lower cost of accommodation, you can see that your total cost would be even less than that. And there are many different options available. Most international students would choose the premium ensuite, I have to say, because it's, for kind of privacy reasons, and also just being able to do kind of what you want when you want, in terms of not having to wait for facilities to be available, etc. But we have a wide range, but I think 8,000 to 10,000 a year would be a rough guide for what you would spend, and that's of course £1,000 sterling.
Yeah, and why not to to consider such type of accommodation if you can afford it, thanks to Belfast prices. So why not? And I can safely say that our students, they were they all been smitten to bits with the accommodation and the costing. So they're all happy and they all comfortable, which is important, because
I think it's worth saying that if you think about it, the one place you'll spend the most single amount of time during your year is your accommodation, and so it does need to be up to a level that you feel not just comfortable at but happy in, and so in our accommodation, of course, all your bills are included, so electricity, gas, internet, water, all of those kind of things. So you have a single price, you pay your single price. It also includes various other benefits like off-peak gym membership, etc., and there are social spaces to go to and things like that. But first and foremost, it needs to be a place that you're comfortable to live in, to study in, so that you can make the most of your experience.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Tom, for mentioning the the bills, because a lot of university and other providers, they split the bills, and they just adopt different things, and it's so daunting for international students because, we obviously got accustomed to our system in Russia or in Ukraine, for instance, and when an international student comes to different country, obviously it's so hard to get accustomed at first. And Queen's University Belfast got it covered for you, so you don't have to spend time on such type of things. So thank you very much.
I think that Nuala could probably comment on it, because in particular students, maybe if they're coming in for a foundation program, at a slightly younger age, not just students but also parents want that level of security, and it does kind of help the parents, help the students to be able to settle in.
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you, Tom. Yes, we have, I was just going to come in to say the accommodation for Into Queen students is a slightly higher per week, not much, but that's just because we have a wraparound package, and so we provide all of the bedding, the cooking packs as part of that, and also we have a dedicated accommodation person for the Into Queen students, so it's a little bit more. I think it's around 150 per week for the Into Queen students. But again, as Tom said, you could potentially live off campus if you wanted, and that's about £300 per month if you wanted to live off campus, and versus £300 per week or so in London, as Tom said. And just come back to the vulnerable students or welfare or students under 18, we do check in the under 18 students every night to make sure that they are in their accommodation at a certain time. And there is also a dedicated residential assistants that live with the students. So if the student has any concern 24/7, they can contact the wellbeing team that are based in accommodation. So there's also things in place, like if a student was out at night, which is very safe in Belfast to be out, but if a student did feel a little bit uncomfortable, if they had no cash, they can phone a taxi, and the taxi has an agreement with the university that they can jump in a taxi, leave them home, and they can pay the taxi the next day. So there's a lot of measures to make sure our students are safe at all times.
Thank you very much, Nuala. And Tom has already commented on that. I was going to ask Roman, what type of dormitories are you interested in? Because as Nuala and Tom mentioned, that the pricing is slightly different for older students and for younger students. So I suppose you are after PG or UG type of accommodation. Oh, okay, so we've got it covered. Thank you very much, everyone. And Nuala, I was going to ask you a question, if you don't mind. We started talking about our most vulnerable students, so to say. And is it safe for them, for IFP students, for those who are just finishing high school here in Russia, to go and study in Belfast? So how does it look for them? Because, well, obviously, well, no matter the location, parents are going to be worried about their kids anyway. But Belfast, is it safe?
So Belfast is one of the safest cities in the world. I grew up in Belfast all my life. It's very easy to get around. It's very accessible. And as I said, there's very low crime rates in Belfast. However, students have to be sensible, as we all do. And, you need to be, we always would advise students to travel together, but there is 24/7 security on campus and around the campus. So if a student did ever feel that they were at risk in any way, they can phone security or they can phone a taxi, as I mentioned earlier, to take them home. But in addition to that, when the students arrive, we put in a very intensive induction schedule for students. So we help them, we get them registered with the health centre, we set up their bank accounts for them, we make sure they're registered in all the Queen systems. We do a lot of extra activities like minding your money, so students start to learn about how to manage their finances, and also about safety and traveling together and things like that. As well as that, we have, for young students, we have a check-in. So we check students every night to make sure that they're in their accommodation at a chosen time, so they have to sign in. But we also check their classes every day at Into Queens if they're under 18. So if a student is not appearing in class, we will phone them to find out where they are. And if they miss a couple of classes and they don't come back to us, we will go and visit them to make sure that they're okay. So there's a lot of protection around those students, to make sure that students are looked after well. So I would say to parents, I would not worry about any concerns they would have about safety. Sorry, I just had a young child enter the room, so apologies for that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nuala. And I can again add to that. When I was visiting UUB, they were looking after me so well, and I'm obviously a grown up, and I was already grown up at the time. But nevertheless, UUB team, they supported me and guided me through the city and through the campus. So we were always in touch, and they were checking up on me in a good way, obviously, just to make sure that I have all I need. And I can only imagine the level of support for students. I mean, it will be obviously even more supportive. The colleagues will be even more supportive to students.
Yeah, what I should have said, Maria, is Belfast is renowned for being the friendliest city in all of the UK. And also our taxi drivers are very famous, and you will have experience of that. They do like to talk a lot when you arrive, and they like to make friends with their students when they arrive to make sure everyone feels welcome.
Yeah, that's completely true. When I was visiting, everyone was talking to me and they were explaining things. They were showing me things. So they showed me around. It was super comfortable, as if I've already been living in Belfast for, I don't know, 10 years or something. So I wasn't, when you visit some new places, you might get anxious about the newty of things. But it wasn't like that in Belfast, because everyone, again, was treating you as a friend. So it's really, really comfortable and really safe. I can write on that. Fantastic. We had a couple of questions in the chat box, and we keep receiving some comments from the social media as well, because we're being live on social media as well. And people are asking, what the programs are on offer, because, well, we have really various groups listening to us today. Some of them are interested in PG programs, and some of them are finishing the secondary school here in Russia. And I think I'm going to ask our listeners and viewers to comment in the chat box and on social media as well. Please, could you mention what type of programs are you interested in? Are you a mature student already? Are you finishing school? What you're interested, before our colleagues will tell us what programs are on offer for you. Okay, we have some people who are interested in master programs. Okay, Nikita, thank you very much. We have Alex commenting from social media. She's interested in UG programs, but she's finishing school, so she's more IFP material then. Okay, thank you very much, Alex. Thank you very much, Nikita. And why everyone's being shy? Please don't. You can comment in Russian, you can comment in English. Oh, fantastic. Svetlana is interested in PhD programs and research and code.
Shall I start by going through some of these then, Maria?
Yes, please.
It's quite
yes,
interesting
please.
that the comments we've had so far literally range from somebody who's currently in high school and somebody who's looking for a PhD program, so kind of across the spectrum. I think the most important thing to say is that we are very much a comprehensive university, so it's very likely that we would have a program that you're looking for across a whole range of different subjects, unless it's something that is incredibly specialized that only certain institutions offer. It's very possible that we have something in your sphere. But what I would say is, in particular, when you get to master's level, and I've noticed this before, that in different countries, the terminology that people use for subject areas is very different. And so if somebody is looking for example, I know that I used an example before about computer science, you will not find probably a master's degree in computer science. You'll find something that is a little bit more specialized in that area. So the way that tends to happen in the UK is that a bachelor's degree generally would be a bit more general. And then at a master's level, you would specialize perhaps into one specific area. So instead of computer science, you might be looking at something like cybersecurity. And so it is important, to speak to Students International and our the whole team there, wherever you're based, because actually that's the first hurdle to actually identify what's the name in the UK of the program that you're looking for. It may not be the same in Russia or in Ukraine or where you're looking from. But we have, a real wide range. We break it down into 3 different faculties to try to make it easy for students. And I'm now going to seamlessly move to those slides if I can. Can we see that? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to go through the 3 faculties. Of course, within all of those faculties, you have different schools, different academic programs. We definitely can't list all of them because that would take us about a week. But here are the main subject areas as such. So the first faculty that we have is our Faculty of Medicine, Health and Life Sciences. And within that, you can see a range of different subjects, perhaps not surprisingly, things like medicine, dentistry and biomedical science, pharmacy, biological sciences, and then nursing and midwifery. But within each of these schools, there would be a range of different undergrad and postgrad programs. I will talk about PhD, but perhaps just afterwards, because it's a slightly different process. The next faculty we have is our Faculty of Engineering and Physical Sciences. And again, you can see within that faculty, there are a range of different schools and subject areas, including things like psychology, maths, physics, and various different types of engineering. And then the final faculty that we have at Queen's is the Faculty of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. And again, within that faculty, you have a range of schools and a range of programs. So that probably gives people an idea of how comprehensive we are as a university in terms of the range of programs. But what I would suggest for anybody choosing a program, whether it's whether you're looking at a foundation program leading through to a bachelor's degree or a master's or a PhD, what's actually important is to look at the content of the program. And our website, I'm sure if you look through with Students International, you could look at all the different courses and modules you would take, because it is important that you know what you're signing up for, that you know what modules you will have, what options you will have if there's a placement, etc., etc. And so we probably have something for everyone, but it is important that you look to see if exactly what you want is offered at Queen's. And then to briefly talk about PhDs, that is slightly different because if you're doing a PhD, then we assume that you have a proposal. You need to submit a proposal, which kind of is a research proposal talking about the area you want to focus on for the next few years. And ideally, if you can, it really helps if you have already identified a supervisor from our excellent, very easy to use website, but you can have a look through and see. And if you can identify a potential supervisor, it will really reduce the processing time for your application. If you don't identify a supervisor, then we have to put it out there and try and see if we can find somebody who will supervise for you, and it really may take the process a bit longer. So if you're looking for a PhD, that is the best way to do it, to have your proposal to identify perhaps one or two potential supervisors and pop their names down on the application form, and then the process should be quite quick. And the other thing I would say is we have a really nice list on our website of funding opportunities for PhD. I know we haven't come on to fees and funding and things like that now, but it is a very popular question with PhD applicants because a lot of research is funded, and you can see them. You can search by school, by subject area, etc., and you get the deadlines and who the funding's for, how much it is, etc. So you should be able to find all the information that you need on our website if you're looking for any funding as well.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry,
Maria.
Go on.
I was just going to come in there to just talk a little bit about the IntoQueens programs that we offer, because they're not just for students who don't meet the requirements for Queens. IntoQueens can also be an opportunity for you to come in to experience the culture of Queens, and also just be introduced to the different schools and the different courses. So we would have a lot of students who would come in who have no idea really what they want to, whether it be postgraduate degree or undergraduate degree they want to progress to. But with us, they start, taster sessions, and they will, the content of the programs are quite broad, and we will introduce them to the different schools, and they can sit in classes of each either undergraduate or postgraduate. As Tom mentioned, within some of the faculties, we also have conversion PGT courses as well for students. So I do think the IntoQueens is a really good stepping stone, even for PhD students, if they want to come and really study English. And it's not just English to get your English language up to the level to progress. It really is looking at those study skills. How do you reference? How do you critical think? All of the things you will need to hit the ground running when you progress into the university. So the IntoQueens programs, and there are a variety of programs, whether they be 9-month programs or 10-week programs, and they are a really good stepping stone to introduce you to that first step of Queens. And so I would really advise students to look at those as well.
Thank you very much.
Come back to one thing, if it's possible, Maria. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
I've been looking at the chat, and I think it's probably a good idea to just really quickly talk about what the entry points are for different students at different points within. That's
what I was going to ask you. Read my mind.
Yeah, because I've seen one question about transfer, for example, and I'm going to tell you now that generally transferring into not the start of a program, so let's say into year 2 of a bachelor's degree, is possible, but it can quite often be, you have to match the curriculum and make sure that your subjects you've studied are equivalent to year 1, etc. And actually, what I would say is probably a better option for somebody, if they have done at least 1 year of university, in their home country, is to consider applying for the international year 1, because they will still then only study 3 years in total, but actually you get that kind of nurturing support in the first year, progress into year 2. It's not a foundation program, so you're not studying 4 years in total, but you will get your full 3 years experience. But it's probably something to consider, because transferring directly into perhaps year 2 or into year 1, depending on what you've already studied, is not always that easy. And so the international year 1 is an ideal program for you, because it also gives you that, I would say, the additional support that you probably need in your first year to really help you acclimatise to living abroad, living in the UK, studying the whole kind of culture, food, weather, all those kind of things. And it really also gets you familiar with all the university facilities, because you would be, accessing all those facilities during that first year. So people shouldn't think that it's completely black and white, that you've either got to do a foundation, got to come in year 1, etc. There are some really nice options available, for students, depending on what they've already studied.
Thank you very much, Nuala. Thank you very much, Tom, for that, because, well, it's really important to our students to understand what options they have, because, well, Russian system as well as a Ukrainian one is interesting. It might be interesting because we have different options as well. Some students, they choose to finish a secondary school. Some students go for A-levels or IB programs. Some of them choose colleges, like a vocational education, and all of them might be considering studying at Queen's afterwards. And it's good that Queen's is ready to accommodate different types of students. That's fantastic. Okay. Oh, we actually have a question on the subject as we go. So Svetlana is asking, what's the way to get accepted for a UG program, for a bachelor program? Are there only two options, foundation or A-levels? Or are there any other options? Could you please share it with us?
Well, I mean, there are actually lots and lots of different options. I think the simple rule would be, if you've completed high school in Russia or your home country and only high school, then your options are quite limited. You need to take a foundation program, but that's because in the UK, students would generally study 13 years before going to their degree. So it brings you up to the right level. If you've studied high school or equivalent of high school plus something else, that's where your options probably become a little bit more varied. So if you've done, for example, 1 year at university, you may be able to consider not taking the foundation and coming directly into, let's say, the International Year 1 program. And that means that your total study time would be 3 years, which saves you time, saves you money, of course, or perhaps your parents' money. And it means you can complete your bachelor's degree quicker. And I would also say, if you've completed a year or more at university, really the foundation program is not for you. It's for students who've just finished high school. I hope Nuala would agree with me. If somebody has done a vocational program or perhaps a combination of something else, then we try to be as flexible as possible. We will always look at your qualifications. We will kind of, in our own admissions team, work out what they are equivalent to. But we have a degree of flexibility. And I don't think anybody should consider, if they're not accepted directly into year 1, to look elsewhere, because we can offer you these flexible options with the International Year 1, and you'd still complete your degree in 3 years and finish from a Russell Group university. So don't think that you have to take A-levels to come to do a degree with us. And if you've done high school plus something else, then maybe talk to Maria, send us your documents, and we'll have a look and then come back to you with some recommendations for what you could do.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Tom. And I think that I'm going to make a comment in Russian, if that's all right, just to summarize, just in case for those who might not catch something. Дорогие друзья, хотела бы прокомментировать касательно вариантов поступления для студентов, особенно на бакалавриат, потому что с магистратурой у нас больше понимания, наверное, это более привычно для вас. Мы обсуждаем совершенно разные варианты. Чем хорош Queen's University Belfast, так это огромным количеством возможностей. То есть Светлана, например, спрашивала, нужно ли обязательно проходить Foundation или A-Level, чтобы поступить на сам бакалавриат. Так мы вам даем еще больше возможностей. Как правильно заметил Том, у всех студентов разный бэкграунд, соответственно, у всех пути поступления будут разные. То есть если вы закончили школу, то это будет Foundation, да, при центре Into на базе университета. Если вы уже сделали A-Levels, то вы имеете право подаваться напрямую на бакалавриат. Если у вас комбинация частичной школы и колледжа, например, то в зависимости от количества лет и программы вы можете даже претендовать либо на International Year 1, либо напрямую на сам бакалавриат уже. То есть, Светлана, вариантов очень много. Я думаю, что имеет смысл, наверное, обсудить конкретный кейс и уже проработать какую-то стратегию для вас или вашего ребенка, потому что вариантов очень много. Коллеги стараются всем студентам предложить какой-то вариант, что замечательно.
If I could just interrupt you just for 1 second, sorry, Maria, just to add one thing, that if you are taking A-levels or IB and perhaps you don't quite reach the scores or the grades that you were hoping for, or the grades that the university requires for direct entry, then again, you probably should consider applying for the International Year 1, because there can be a certain degree of more flexibility in terms of entry requirements coming into that program. And there are options starting in September and January. So if for any reason you miss the September start date, you don't have to waste a year waiting around. So there are a lot of reasons why you could consider. So don't think if you're taking A-levels and you don't quite get the grades you want, that you have to then lower your expectations in terms of which university or which ranking of university to consider. We can work with you. And the International Year 1, if I'm correct, Nuala, 2 Ds, is that the minimum requirement?
That's correct. It really depends on which one you're going to. So if you're going to the engineering one, you would need to have one of the Ds would have to be in maths at least. And just as to add to that, Tom, so thank you, we also run 7 BEng programs with International Year 1 at Into Queen's. So you can come and still study your BEng, mechanical engineering, civil engineering, aerospace, computer science, electrical engineering, product development, and chemical engineering are the 7 BEng degrees. So if you arrive into Queen's and you meet the requirements for those programs, so you just need a higher level of English, still only 2 Ds for your A-level requirements. You will get your 1 CAS for the full program, so you'll be on your BEng program even though you're with Into Queen's in the first year.
Thank you very much, Nuala. And this is a massively fantastic point, guys. So if something happened to your grades, please don't lower your expectation. We are living in a very bizarre times because of the COVID and what's happening around it. And we understand that your grades might turn out not the way you want it, but nevertheless, you can apply to Russell Group University. There is always a way. So please, if you're having doubts, just approach us and we will help out to find a suitable program for you. And the options are flexible, various intakes, as my colleagues mentioned. So a lot to consider. But again, the message is that there is always a way, which is fabulous.
And it would also be the same with masters, if we haven't really spoken too much about that. But there are effectively 2 different options for a master's program. You could apply, if you're able to, directly into a master's program, which is 1 year or occasionally 2 years if there's an internship involved, or you could consider the graduate diploma, which is a kind of pre-master's course. But actually, for a lot of people, the graduate diploma, even if they don't require it to apply, it can be a really good option to, again, help them acclimatise to living and studying in Belfast. Because a master's is only 1 year, it's pretty intensive. And if for any reason you don't quite perform to your top ability over the first, let's say, term, that's already 1/3 of your program gone. And so the graduate diploma can be a really good way for you to kind of really acclimatize into the system, the style of teaching, which is going to be probably quite different to what you've been used to before. And then you really maximize your chance of, succeeding and getting the highest grade possible in your master's if you just take that kind of reasonably short program before your master's begins, even if it's not an actual requirement.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Tom, for mentioning that. Thank you. And we received some comments on social media, so please allow me to voice them to you. And obviously, the majority of our listeners and viewers have done their research and done their homework, so they know perfectly well what type of a Queen's University Belfast what type of a university QUB is, but we have some newbies joining us for our broadcast, and Svetlana is mentioning on social media, she's asking, you've mentioned that QUB is one of the Russell Group universities, but could you please tell us what Russell Group University is? And I think it's high time to mention the fabulous rankings. And to those who just joined us and might know a little bit less than the rest of the group, what QUB is.
Yeah, well, thanks very much, Svetlana, for your question. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering. We keep mentioning things like the Russell Group, and I'll briefly explain what it is. So the Russell Group is a group of 24 universities within the UK. There are around 150 universities in the UK, so 24 is a pretty small percentage, and it's a group of real research-intensive leading research universities within the UK. So we are one of the founding members of the Russell Group. There have been a few other universities that have joined afterwards, but we are one of the founding members. And what it means is that we really have, at first and foremost, we're a very research intensive university. So we put a lot of effort and our resources into our research. Now, you may think, especially if you're an undergraduate student, what does that mean for you? Well, actually, it means the facilities are likely to be better because there's more investment. The people teaching you are not going to be, I'm going to put it in a kind of cliche way, but not going to be reading the book, but they're going to be writing the books. So they're going to be the leaders in their field. Perhaps at master's and PhD level, it might be slightly more relevant. But what it means in terms of some figures, for 24 universities, a very small percentage in the UK, roughly 2/3 of all of the world leading research that comes out of the UK comes from those small group of universities. And also approximately 2/3 of all the investment for research goes into those group of universities. So to put it simply, these universities have more money to invest in facilities and teaching staff to enhance your experience. I guess you could compare it perhaps to the Ivy League in the US. There are some similarities there. But if you choose a Russell Group university, you're really choosing quality and a university which focuses on research and moving forward, and not just teaching kind of pre-existing theories, but actually they're trying to, you know, constantly develop things and come up with new ideas. That was my reasonably quick explanation, I guess, of what the Russell Group is, but I hope it was clear enough.
Thank you. We have another question on that, if you allow me. People keep asking what particular subjects or programs are utterly good at QUB.
Well, all of them, obviously.
Well, yeah, we know that much. But
I'll move on. I think I've got a few slides here that I can move on to show people. Just to talk a little bit about rankings. I think it is important to say when you're looking at rankings that rankings should be one of the factors you consider when you're choosing where to study, because if we're honest, every single university in the UK is number one at something in some area. It might be an academic subject, it might be something else, but there are lots of ranking tables. And so it can be a little bit of a minefield when you start researching. But here's the ones that we think you should look at, and also the ones which are probably more widely used within the industry. So if you want to talk about the world rankings, Queen's is a top 200 university in the world in the Times rankings, the current rankings this year. And to put that into some kind of perspective, there's no exact number, but there are well in excess of 15,000 universities globally. So to be top 200 really is something quite special. In terms of different subjects, you can see on the slide here, there are a few that I have highlighted there in terms of global ranking. And if you look down, what you'll see, I've got a few slides to go through, and I guess the common factor among those slides is that we have a wide range of different subject areas that are highly ranked. So it's not one specific subject or one specific school which we're renowned for. Actually, we have a real wide range of subjects which are well known and highly ranked in the different tables. So in the world ranking there, you can see within the top 200 for their subject, things like geography, medicine, law, archaeology, nursing, so a complete range of different subjects. If we moved on slightly to some of the UK rankings, within the UK, you generally will find the three main ranking tables that people will refer to will be the Complete University Guide, and the Times and the Guardian. There are others, of course, but those are the ones that people normally refer to. And you can see I've put a few highlights there in the slide. And again, as you go down it, you will see that ranked within the top 20 in the UK, we have an incredible range of different subjects. So various types of engineering, things like architecture, accounting, social work, dentistry, food science. So across all of the three faculties. And so again, there is a kind of similarity that we don't have just one subject or one standout area. We are actually a very well-renowned, high-ranked university across the board in the different subject areas. And then the final one I've got here, this is some highlights from the Times and Sunday Times ranking. But I think what I should probably point to first is the small little red rosette in the corner. Because this is something in particular, somebody who's looking for a PhD or perhaps a master's program, that we were ranked joint first in the UK for our research intensity, and very proud to have that ranking. But the other university we were ranked joint first with is Cambridge University. So I hope that probably highlights how seriously we take our research. And if you're coming in to do a PhD, what kind of experience and resources and colleagues you should expect to work with. So that was a real accolade for us. But just looking at the subject areas there, even ranked within the top 10, you can see various different subjects across all the different faculties. So, anybody who's interested in finding out about a certain ranking, maybe for their subject or subject area, I'm sure that Maria or anyone at Students International could help you with that. But this is just some highlights that we put together to show how Queen's is really very highly ranked, across the board.
Thank you very much, Tom. And I think that we've slightly scared some students off. Now we keep receiving, I keep receiving comments in the private chat box that the people are asking whether they need to be geniuses in order to get accepted to QB. Could we please, Nuala and Tom, could we please cover the entry requirements? So what our students need to present to the admissions team in order to get accepted? So I just want to know, I want to tell you guys that please don't be scared off. It's not as super scary as it sounds. I'm sure that you all are super smart and will manage to get accepted to QB. So who would love to start first?
So maybe Tom, if you do the entrance requirements for the university, and then I can cover the into ones.
Yes, absolutely. So it really depends what program you're applying for. Of course, it's very difficult for me to say, you need this to get into any program. I guess, roughly speaking, we'll break it down into two areas: your academic requirements and your English language requirements. So to start with the English language, which is a bit simpler, it does depend on the program. It's all on our website as well, but it could be as low as an IELTS 6.0, or it could be as high as an IELTS 7.0. But I think roughly speaking, you're probably looking at an IELTS 6.5 for most programs. And there may be some sub-skill requirements, but all of that is on our website. So from an English language point of view, an IELTS 6.5 is definitely very achievable. I'm going to do a little plug now and say that actually, if you want to boost your English language before you leave your home country, then if I understood correctly, Students International are an official accredited IELTS testing centre. So, that's definitely the place to go if you want to just boost your language before you leave your home country. There are also, I'm sure Nuala will talk about this, but there are great language programs that you could take on campus within 2 Queens before starting your degree as well. So there are quite a lot of options with English language. From an academic point of view, obviously there's a range depending on the subjects. We normally do an equivalent to A-level. And so we would have internally within our admissions team for undergraduate programs, we would have, it has to be equivalent to, let's say, for some programs, BBB or ABB, or it depends on the program. But in terms of what you need to get in, if you've done A-levels, great. If you've done IB, you can see that on our website, and you're probably looking at somewhere around 30 points or higher. But if you're taking a foundation program, and I won't take anything away from Nuala, you will actually know your progression requirements before you start the foundation program. If you're looking for a master's program, then to come directly, again, an English language score generally of 6.5, could be 6.0 if it's perhaps more of a engineering-based program, but each different program has the requirements on the website. And from an academic point of view, I'm just going to, if I can, load up something. Apologies if you've just lost the presentation, but I'm just going to quote our website. So if you can see here, in terms of applying for a master's, we would normally do an equivalent to either a UK, what's called a 2-1 or a 2-2. So if you've completed your bachelor's degree in Russia or in Ukraine, if you're in Russia, for example, you would need to have a 4-year baccalaureate with a GPA of 4 out of 5. If you need to have a 2-1 requirement. And if you're looking for a 2-2, it's a GPA of 3.5 out of 5. But as Maria will know, we do look at everyone's transcript individually. Not all modules will be counted. So generally, if a module says pass, it's pass-fail, it's not always included in the calculation. But our admissions team, working together with Maria, we can get an answer back to you pretty quickly if you're unsure whether you could be accepted. But I think the simple answer to the question is no, you don't need to be a genius. You need to be, a serious, motivated student, regardless of what option you take, how you come into the university to study your program. You need to be motivated. You need to be serious. There are some programs where you might need an interview, but generally that's things like medicine, for example. So for most programs, you wouldn't need to do any kind of interview or anything else. A personal statement is generally required to apply for an undergraduate program. But I think if you're unable to write a personal statement, you're probably unable to complete a bachelor's degree. And so, that's just a minimum requirement for any program. So that's a real roundabout way of talking about it. There is no single answer for what you need to apply. But, we can work with anybody individually to let them know what their options are, depending on what qualifications they have.
Great. And maybe if I share my screen, if that's okay, Tom, it'll stop yours. So I'm just, can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So at Into Queens, we, as Tom has mentioned, we offer the foundation programs. So and you will need a foundation program or A levels or IB to get into year one at the university. So within the foundation program, we have architecture, we have business, humanities, and social science, and we have engineering. And from that, the entrance requirements into those programs really depend. So we have a number of intakes. We have September and January intakes, and then March is the 2-term, and it's the accelerated program. But really you will need, just to complete your 12-year of schooling to have access to the foundation program from the academic side. The English language side is a little bit different. So what we offer is you can study 3 terms, 4 terms, or 5 terms. If you study 3 terms, you will need a 5.5 IELTS and with the equivalent of 5 in your subskills. You will need a UKVI IELTS for this, and that's because we are a pathway program. So to go into the university directly, a UKVI IELTS is not necessary, but to come into Queen's it is. And Maria and her team will advise you on all of that. But you can come to us with less English, so you can come with IELTS 4.5, IELTS 4, and you would just study English in your first couple of terms in order to meet the requirements to progress into the foundation. Tom mentioned, having to write personal statements. We cover all of that with you when you're with us. If you're studying architecture, for example, you don't need to come with a portfolio. We will do that with you during your foundation year. You also have an opportunity, as I mentioned before, to really learn about the university and really make sure that you understand which degree you want to progress to. So we have students who come to us all the time who say that they want to study economics. Then they start to do economics modules in their foundation degree and they hate it, and they say, I definitely don't want to do economics. So they choose another degree, and that is fine. And you can choose. Some students actually end up doing a lot better than they had thought at the end, and right at the end they can still move to pharmacy, for example, or into a BEng degree. So really that's the foundation. We also talked about the international year 1 degrees. That's where you would come into Queen's and you do your year one at Into Queen's and progress to year 2. Again, you have a September start and a January start. And as I mentioned, we also run 7 BEng programs within Into Queen's, which again have a September and a January start. The entrance requirements to this, as we talked about earlier, again from the academic side, would be the equivalent of 2 Ds at A level. But I mean, if you have got any other qualifications, please do send them through to Maria and the team, and we can always look at them and we can judge them on a case-by-case basis. Here again, you would need an IELTS of 5.5, and for the BEng programs, you would need to have 5.5 in all of your subskills. But for the normal single CAS program, you would not need that. And again, you can study academic English, so you can study 2 or 3, 4 terms or 5 terms, so you can study English as well. And again, these are the degrees you can progress to. The variety of degrees that you can progress to is slightly minimized here because you're on a more dedicated program that's matched to year 1 at Queen's. So you won't have the same variety, but you can still move around. So if you're studying management and finance, for example, these are the range of programs that you can still choose. And finally, as we talked about, is the graduate diploma, which is an excellent preparation for students who want to progress to master's degrees. And in fact, we monitor the students once they progress, and they are all extremely successful when they graduate. And we've got examples of students who've progressed who have local students even asking them for help with referencing and critically writing, because academic writing is very different here in the UK. Again, the entrance requirements here is really a pass in either a diploma or your undergraduate degree. And again, the IELTS for this one would be 5.5, but you do need to have 5.5 in 2 of your subskills. But again, you can study the pre-sessional program in advance of that. And this year we've just launched an accelerated version, so you've got a higher English language level, you can come in March and study just 6 months of a graduate diploma. And there is a variety of degrees that you can progress to here. The International Law and Construction and Project Management have built-in internships, which I know is of interest as well to some students. And we have just introduced another 14 new progression options, and I will send them all to Maria so she has access, so you can you can see those. So really that's the entrance requirements. There's also, English language courses. So you can come and do an academic English with us, and then you can progress, or you can apply to either a program at Into Queens or directly to the university, and we'll help you with all of that as well. And really, there's no lower requirement. As long as you have enough to get a visa, you can come without any level of English.
Thank you very much both. And I think that, well, I'm sure that all the entry requirements might be a little bit daunting for students to remember. So what I would suggest, like my colleagues they'll drop a link to the chat box now. And if you're unsure what route you need to choose in order to get accepted to either QB directly or into QB, just put on your contact details onto the form, and we will run a consultation with you, and we'll explain everything in greater details for your specific situation, like what's the roadmap for you, so to say, and how you should proceed. Поэтому, друзья, если вам нужна индивидуальная консультация, потому что мы, конечно, понимаем, что все входные данные на программы, программ, во-первых, много, и у всех разная ситуация, поэтому, пожалуйста, можете оставить свои контактные детали и забронировать консультацию с коллегами из QB, и мы с радостью все вместе спланируем ваше поступление, которое приведет вас к успеху. And speaking of success, by the way, so you've let us know all about the programs and how to get accepted and everything. And could you please tell me, as well as our viewers and listeners everywhere across Russia and Ukraine at the moment, what your programs, what QB programs are leading to? And I'm meaning their employment prospects. So how successful QB graduates are. So where do they crash after the graduation? What's the typical route, so to say? Because, well, obviously everyone's choosing the education with a further prospect of successful employment afterwards. And so could you please boast a little bit about your graduates now?
Well, I'm happy to start there, and I'm going to say they don't crash anywhere. They soar up to huge heights in their chosen field. It's very difficult, of course, depending on the subject area and the program they've graduated from, to generalize. But what I can do is I can just share let me just see. Yeah, I can just share this now, just to give you an idea of some of the companies that we partner with as a university. So hopefully you can see that. I think it's probably worth saying that it's not worth me saying an average salary across the board, because somebody coming out of a medicine program and somebody coming out of maybe a 3-year bachelor's degree in something else is not going to be the same. And so the kind of companies that our students would go to, some students remain in the UK, some students go back to their home country or look abroad for employment. But the kind of companies that we can give students access to when they're studying, there are some examples there on the slide. But it's probably important to say that the way that Queen's works with our kind of industrial and corporate partners is in a very I guess, in-depth way. So we do not just have a list of companies and partners that we work with and know. They help us to design the programs. They come to meet our students, because what the industry wants is they want to create graduates that are right for them, for their companies. So there are some very big names there. You can see things like the Big Four, like PwC, Deloitte, etc. If you're looking within the law sphere, companies like Allen and Overy, and lots of different kind of engineering and agricultural companies there that we work very closely with. The other thing I would say, and there's no statistics to back this up, but if you think about looking for employment after you graduate, of course, we have the new student route now and the new post-study kind of options for students now. So finding employment, I'm going to say, is going to be possible, not easier, but it's going to be possible for anyone who graduates with a bachelor's or a master's. But if you're looking in Belfast, there are 2 universities in Northern Ireland. And so unless people are looking to travel across to various different places, actually the pool of students, let's say, that employers might be looking at is going to give you a better choice of finding employment and a better chance of finding employment. In some of the bigger cities where you might have 10 plus universities, like London, for example, I'm going to say that competition is going to be higher. And so you might struggle a bit more. And so in terms of employability chances when you graduate from Belfast, if you're looking then to stay in Northern Ireland, I would say that your chances are increased. As I said, it's simple maths based on the number of universities present, but also the number of companies that base themselves in Northern Ireland or in Belfast. Outside of London, Belfast is number 2 in the UK for attracting foreign investment. And so that means that companies are looking to set up offices, set up branch offices, etc. in Belfast, probably because of the geographic location. It's a very strategic one, but it means on your doorstep after you graduate, you have these companies, and we will do everything we can during your bachelor's or during your master's degree to introduce you to these companies. So they will come and give seminars. There'll be, CV building workshops and interview techniques and things like that. So we'll basically do everything that we can to maximize your chance of getting employment. And looking at those companies there, I'm sure people can recognize, some of those are huge multinational companies. These are the kind of companies that our students and our graduates would go to find employment in, whether it's full employment or an internship. There are lots of different opportunities for you.
Thank you very much. Nuala, you were going to say something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I was just going to add just back there, all universities quote very high statistics on students' employability and students going into further education. So if you look at anyone, they're always going to say 95, 98%. But I think what Tom has hit the nail on the head, that Queen's does more than that. So I'm just going to post a little link in the chat box to show Queen's have really invested in their career service over the last year and last couple of years, and they really want to enhance students' careers prospects. So each student is put on a career path, and that could be placement opportunities, internships, but it's also even preparing students to making sure that their CVs are up to a proper standard, that they have proper interview skills. Tom mentioned, the chance they do have external speakers all the time, the chance to meet external speakers. So I'm just going to pop in the link, some of the things there, the careers office.
You've muted yourself, unfortunately.
Sorry. I was going to say just that I do think it stands out from the other universities. So I'll pop that in the chat box.
It's probably worth adding as well that when you look at what students actually learn on the programs, a couple of examples would be, for example, the trading room that we have within our management school. It gives students who are studying finance the real world access to real world data. I believe there's even a student-led fund where students can invest real money, to see how the returns do. So it's real life experience rather than a lot of theory, because what employers want, of course, is students who've got that real experience rather than just saying they know how to do it, to be able to show that they can do it. Our computer science building would be another great example. It's a phenomenal building, very unique, very striking. And when you go inside the building, in the entire building, there's one lecture theatre. And the rest of it is computer labs. There's a sustainable city built of Lego that students can learn on. It's very kind of, I don't know how to quote, googly, if that's the right way to put it, but the layout it's really an interactive learning experience. So you do not spend your entire time sitting in a lecture room. What you spend your time doing is learning through practical application, mainly because that's what our industrial partners have said they want. Obviously, they want students who know how to do things. And so you will finish a degree at Queen's with the real practical skills, as well as the knowledge, and not just the knowledge with no experience.
Thank you very much both for commenting. And I just want to wrap this up a little bit, because what we have here, like if you're still not convinced that Belfast and QUB are still at least worth considering as a study destination, I just want to draw your attention to the fact that we have a fantastic, academically strong university with a wide range of programs. That's first thing to consider. We do have fabulous employment prospects afterwards. Like that's the second thing. And Tom is hinting at the next thing to consider, fees and scholarships, because QUB is one of the most generous universities, especially if we're talking about Russell Group universities. So the fees are reasonable, and the university is ready to give you like really generous scholarships. And on top of that, the chances of a successful employment in Northern Ireland Fantastic. So all in all, we have full package, guys, and I don't know why you're not applying at the moment.
Would you like to go through the fees very quickly?
Yes, please. That was leading to my next question. We have the similar question in the chat box. Our students are impatient to know about the fees and scholarships.
Okay, well, before we start, I'll just say that the fees are quoted in pounds sterling. So in terms of what that equivalent to in your local currency, you'd have to work that out. But everything.
Don't do that. Don't say it out loud.
I'm not going to do any equivalencies roughly in the chat, so don't worry. But to talk first of all about undergraduate fees, you can see there are 3 levels of fees. The first 2 are the 2 you're going to be most interested in, because the preclinical, the bottom fee, the more expensive one, is for medicine. So unless you're interested in medicine, you can ignore that. But we have classroom-based and lab-based. So we generally call classroom-based fee rate 1 and lab-based fee rate 2. And there is a difference there in the price. And that's the price for 1 year of study. So of course, if you're doing a bachelor's degree, it would be 3 years at that fee. So that's the gross fee. That's what the fee starts at. There are a number of awards and scholarships, and I've got a small calculation there just to give you an idea. Perhaps it's best to go to this one first. Don't worry, I'll go back to that other slide. But this is just showing the kind of discounts and scholarships you can get at undergraduate level. So off your first year of tuition fees, if you're doing a fee rate 1 program, you will get an automatic discount of £2,500. If you're doing fee rate 2, you'll get an automatic discount of £3,000. There are some larger scholarships which you have to apply for, which are called the Vice-Chancellor's International Attainment Scholarships, and they are equal to 50% discount on your tuition fees across every year of study. So definitely try and apply for them. There's a deadline coming up. I think it's in May. I have to just double check. But I would encourage everybody to apply for that, but perhaps apply in hope and not in expectation. There are not a huge number of awards, and so it's really good to try for it. But obviously not everybody will be awarded that scholarship. There's also a family scholarship, should you have any family members who have studied at Queen's. And then there's also an early bird reward. And this is an additional 10%, which you can take off your first year of fees if you pay your fees by a certain deadline and you have an unconditional offer. Now, we've been very flexible last year, and I'm pretty sure we will be this year, although it hasn't been announced yet, that we will offer an extended deadline for the early bird reward. So don't worry, you don't have to have your unconditional offer by the end of June. But just to give you an example here in the calculation, the top table is fee rate 1, the bottom table is fee rate 2. So if you started with 17,400 and you took advantage of the International Office Scholarship, which would come off automatically, and then you took the early bird reward, your first year fees would go down to £13,410. And there is now a new scholarship as well, a merit-based scholarship, which means if you achieve a certain level going forward, you'll get an additional £2,000 off each further year of study for your undergraduate degree. And so, of course, the early bird does not apply for years 2 and 3, but you can still get some kind of discount off your fees. If you're doing fee rate 2, so generally a lab-based, maybe engineering or science program, starting at 21,400, you will then reduce it in your first year to 16,560. Of course, these are large sums of money, and we do understand that education is an investment for anybody. But if you compare to other Russell Group universities, I think you'll really struggle to find a university which offers such good value for money. Especially if you combine it with the cost of living, really, I don't think you'll find a better value option within the Russell Group. So that's undergrad. Is it okay, Nuala, if I go through to postgrad and then we can do pathway programs? Is that okay? Yeah. So to talk about postgraduate programs, and I do apologize, it's a very small table there that's probably quite hard to read. But again, we have fee rate 1 and fee rate 2, but there are some exceptions, generally in the management school, but also things like psychological sciences and software development have a different fee band to the standard fees. But you can see there is an international scholarship, International Office Scholarship, which is automatic, £2,000 discount if it's fee rate 1 and £3,000 if it's a laboratory-based fee rate 2. And again, to look at the calculation, it shows you, now remember, for a master's program, it's only 1 year. So this would be your total tuition fee. If you started at 17,700, the total fees you would pay if you took the early bird as well would be 14,130. And similarly to undergraduate If you took fee rate 2, you'd start at 21,400 and you would end up paying 16,560. So that's a rough idea of fees. I think I've got research fees there, so 17,460 and 22,000. But don't forget, there are quite a lot of funding opportunities for PhDs that you should definitely check out as well. Finished.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I think that now everyone is totally convinced. Nuala, the floor is all yours now.
Yeah, just to cover the scholarships that are available from Into Queens. So the Into Queens programs, generally the pathway programs, the cost for 3 terms is around £17,895. Now, it really depends, and Maria and the team will know all about this on your regional office and the scholarships that are available. But generally, you can obtain between 1,000 to 2,000 off your Into fee. But really, where the saving comes in is when you progress from your foundation degree into university, you will receive a progression scholarship, which is to the value of the international office scholarship. So that could be 2,500 or £3,000. And also the early bird discount, which Thomas referred to, is also open for all Into students, no matter if you are January or September intake. But really, I suppose one of the programs that we would find would have the biggest saving is on the International Year 1 program, particularly around programs that fall into fee band 2. So if you just go back to your undergraduate slide for me, just so you can see generally the lab fees are £21,400, whereas our year 1 fee is still £17,895 with your scholarships and then your progression scholarships. So of course, some students definitely want to go into direct entry, which is fine, but there is quite a saving there for those students who do opt to do the International Year 1 program with us as well. So just to summarize those, but I'm happy to send those through to you, Maria.
I just want to add as well that we can happily do a calculation for somebody if they want to know the total cost across 1 year or 3 years, etc. But people quite often ask me, what's the total cost for a year, including everything? I think roughly speaking, when you get these kind of discounts on your tuition fee, you can probably allocate around £24,000–25,000 for 1 year, including all your living and accommodation, and that will cover everything. And again, please feel free to go out and do some comparisons, but I don't think you'll find anything as good at Russell Group universities. But yeah, that's a rough amount.
Thank you very much, both. And again, I can confirm that the pricing is the same as our colleagues are telling you now, and you won't find other options among the Russell Group partners. So it's such a value for money. You get a marvelous academically strong degree. You get scholarships. You get fantastic career prospects. And look at you've done well. So again, please do at least consider QUB and studying in Northern Ireland. Okay, so I think that we've almost run out of questions, but let's double check and ask our students or parents who are listening to us. Are there any more questions? Please don't be shy, and please do just leave a message or comment on social media or in the chat box. No question is silly.
Can I just add one thing, Maria, perhaps?
Sure,
if anybody has what they might consider a very specific question they'd like to discuss themselves, myself, Nuala, I know that Maria and the team at Student International would be happy to arrange a separate one-on-one talk if you'd like to talk about your particular program that you're looking for or your own circumstances, etc. And we can definitely do that. But the one thing I would say is it may not be possible for everybody, but if anybody is in the position to visit any universities before making a decision, feel free to let us know. We can arrange a day for you if you come over to Belfast, where one of our ambassadors or our colleagues will be able to show you around and really give you a flavour of what it's like. And whether you're looking for a pathway program or bachelor, master, PhD, it really doesn't matter. We'd still be happy to show you around to let you know what it's like before you make your decision, mainly because we understand it's such a big decision for you. So we're happy to help any way we can before you decide.
And just to come in on that, Tom, we also are open to students who want to attend virtual taster classes with us, and we can organise that through Maria and the team. If anyone wants to sit in on a graduate diploma class or a foundation just to see what it's like, we're happy to do that.
And I'll just ask my colleagues to drop the link for to book a one-on-one consultation. So if my team could do that for me, that would be grand. So if you feel that you need either to talk to one of the colleagues or to us, please just book a slot and we'll do our best to, to find a suitable day for you and arrange everything. And I just wanted to quickly comment about visiting. And it's a really dangerous proposition because once you visit, you won't be able to consider other universities, which is our goal today. So all settled, and the campus is gorgeous, the team is fantastic, and I'm sure you'll be a happy student at QB.
The other thing we can do in this current time where we're really not allowed to travel very much, we could perhaps arrange one-on-ones between current Russian students, maybe, if somebody wanted to speak to a current student just to get their experience of what it's like. I'm sure that Nuala can do that for any current, I'm sure you have some current Russian students on some pathway programs. We can arrange whether it's Skype or Zoom or whatever, if somebody would like to speak just to get a kind of student's perspective of what it's like. That's not a problem.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. We have quite a cohort of students on campus. So please, again, don't be shy and just ask, and we'll arrange everything. And the team at QB will do the same so that you could feel the flavor, so to say, from campus and know everything from students who are currently there. Okay.
Just one more thing, Maria, I was going to mention, just when you're talking about all the restrictions around travel, the university will be launching their intentions for September now in the coming weeks. So students and parents will have a clear idea of what the plan is for September, as I know there's still a lot of uncertainty. But just to give you an update in Northern Ireland, we are rolling through the vaccinations here. So I think over half of the population here have been vaccinated. So things are starting to hopefully open up, and we're still waiting to hear more details on that, but we're hoping by September that we'll be able to get back to campus like we would have.
Fingers, eyes, toes crossed. I'll keep everything crossed for that. I'll just quickly make a comment about the restrictions in Russian and the plan of the UK to go out of the quarantine finally. We are really impatient for the 12th of April, just like everyone else, I suppose. Дорогие друзья, хочу быстренько сделать такой комментарий по поводу режима занятий в сентябре. Естественно, все очень хотят вернуться к очному обучению, и все уже хотят избавиться от карантина, и мы slowly but surely мы идем к этому. Следующее, как вы, наверное, уже знаете, если смотрели наши эфиры и наш эфир по образованию в Великобритании 13 марта, с 8 марта школы средние уже начали работу в очном формате. То есть студенты вернулись и посещают занятия, что, конечно же, не может нас не радовать. Университеты подтягиваются, и потихоньку уже многие вузы, пока на практические только курсы, вернули в какой-то степени очное обучение, и мы надеемся и очень рассчитываем, и вузы готовятся к тому, чтобы с сентября всех вас ждать уже на очное обучение. Следующее выступление премьер-министра Великобритании состоится 12 апреля, и мы надеемся, что в этот чудесный день, в день космонавтики, мы узнаем, что можно будет полететь уже в Великобританию, и надеемся, что без больших ограничений. Пока текущий план таков, что с 21 июня 2021 года будут сняты ограничения, связанные с коронавирусом. Как именно они будут сняты, мы пока не знаем, пока ждем следующей точки, очень важной в календаре нашем, 12 апреля, будут, опять же, повторюсь, озвучены правила международных перелетов, ну, по крайней мере, нас по состоянию на сейчас. Поэтому мы все следим, и, конечно же, мы распространим эту информацию, как только она станет нам доступна. Поэтому, пожалуйста, следите за нашими ресурсами, чтобы не пропустить такой важный момент, как очное обучение в Queen's University Belfast. Так, do we guys have any more questions? You can comment on the chat box, like yes, no, I don't know, I don't have any, I might have later. And for those who might have questions later, I've dropped the link to individual consultations.
I will send you the presentation, Maria, just so you know, afterwards, in case anybody wants to go through it in more detail. And there's plenty that we didn't actually look at, lots of images and things like that, which might give them a bit more of an idea of what Belfast is like.
Yeah, so it seems to me that everyone's got the information they need for now, or they might be already applying, I don't know. That's why they're being quiet now. Just before we wrap up, I want to share the contact details just to let you know where to find us. Just a second. I'll drop the link to... Okay, and I just wanted to quickly announce you, we present for you, we bonus, if we may, we will be helping you free of charge if you let us know that you want to apply to QUB by the 15th of April. So please do take a screenshot, or you can copy the contact details from the chat box. You can find us in Russia, obviously, as well as in Ukraine, and here is the slide. So please do reach out to the team. Myself, Irina, or the rest of the team will be happy to support you with the application to Queen's University Belfast and into QUB Center, and make sure that you're accepted and guide you through the process with the documents and everything. И я быстренько повторю это на русском, чтобы уж точно все поняли. Да, наши контактные детали. Сейчас вы видите наши контакты в Украине, наши украинские офисы готовы вам помочь при заключении договора с нами до 15 апреля. Мы будем рады помочь вам сделать такой бонус, бесплатное зачисление. Поэтому, пожалуйста, скорее пишите нам имейлы или звоните, мы все ваши, и будем рады помочь вам во всем процессе поступления в Queen's University Belfast. Okay, thank you very much, guys, for being today with us, and thank you very much for being so active. Thank you very much for asking a lot of questions, and thank you for doing this at weekends and in the morning. We do appreciate that, and I'm sure all the students and all the listeners on the social media do appreciate it as well. So thank you very much for being such a supportive team. We can't wait to send you as many students as we can think of.
Thank you very much for having us. Hopefully see lots of people soon in Belfast, and equally, hopefully we might see you sometime soon in Russia.
Yes, please.
Permitting.
Yes, please. We'll be happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you
everyone.
very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Have a great weekend.
Likewise, cheers. And we are wishing you a fantastic weekend. Again, if you have any questions, please do reach out to the team, and see you soon around.